Why cash flow changes people psychologically. Most people think investors become obsessed with cash flow because of money, but truthfully, a lot of it is psychological. Hey guys, this is Sal Bosiso with Mortgage Universe on YouTube. Because once somebody experiences consistent cash flow for the first time, it completely changes how they think about work, stress, and financial security. And I don't think enough people talk about that side of investing. Because when most people first start investing, they're usually focused on like appreciation or big wins. But over time, experienced investors become obsessed with something much simpler: predictability. That's the interesting shift, because cash flow creates something people are really chasing underneath all of this: breathing room. That's the real value, not just money sitting in an account. Psychological breathing room. And I think that changes people way more than they expect, because if your entire life depends on one paycheck hitting every 2 weeks, there's always some level of pressure in the background. Even high earners feel this, especially if expenses are high, lifestyle's inflated, or overhead becomes massive. But once investments start producing stable income every month, something changes mentally. People stop feeling like every decision is life or death financially. That's huge psychologically. And by the way, if you guys are into these kinds of conversations, real estate, investing, DSCR stuff, definitely like and subscribe, because I'm going to be talking a lot more about this kind of thing. Now, obviously, cash flow doesn't magically solve every problem. Bad investments still exist, vacancies still happen, repairs happen, markets shift. But investors eventually realize cash flow creates resilience. That's the important part. Over time, cash flowing assets can reduce dependency on one employer, one paycheck, one source of income, and that changes how people operate emotionally. They become calmer, less reactive, more patient, because, again, psychologically, having income producing assets creates optionality. That's one reason experienced investors often think very differently about money than newer investors. Newer investors often focus heavily on how much money can I make? But experienced investors start focusing more on how much pressure can I remove? That's a completely different, thought process, or a completely different framework. And this is why so many investors become obsessed with real estate specifically, because real estate combines cash flow, fixed rate debt, equity growth, tax advantages, inflation protection, all of those things inside one asset class. That's incredibly powerful over long periods of time, especially once rents start rising while fixed debt stays relatively stable. That dynamic changes people's psychology around money dramatically, because eventually investors stop viewing cash flow as extra income and start viewing it as stability, freedom, flexibility, margin for error. And honestly, I think this is also why so many high earners eventually become interested in investing. Because after a certain point, people realize making more money and feeling financially secure are not always the same thing. That's a huge realization. I've met people making $80,000 a year with low stress and strong cash flow who feel more financially stable than people making $400,000 a year with massive overhead and zero passive income. Because financial pressure is heavily psychological. And what's interesting is once investors build enough cash flow, they often stop making emotional decisions as frequently too, because desperation decreases. That is powerful. People negotiate differently, take smarter risks, think longer term, panic less, and eventually many investors realize the goal was never really getting rich fast. The real goal was building enough stability and flexibility where life stops feeling financially fragile all the time. And I think that's why cash flow changes people so much, psychologically, because deep down, most people aren't chasing endless luxury. They're chasing peace of mind.